Hello everybody, I'm Dr. Saida Désilets. This is Dare to Explore. So we're looking at exploring topics. You're on my Global Initiative, Sovereignty Initiative page. And what I'm excited about is introducing you to Francesca because of all my pillars. I've got 4. She covers them all with her life's work. And I think we can have a very deep conversation about what's going on in the world, but specifically here in South Africa. So welcome.
Thank you, Saida. My name is Francesca Fondse. I am the National Champion for Women in South Africa in the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. My work daily is about advancing gender-based rights, human rights, and also to develop strategies with the department towards advancing the plight of women in the judicial system in South Africa. And also there is a national outreach that is looking at the socio-economic empowerment of women, but also we do dialogues which involve men to actually get to the core of GBV from various perspectives, various cultural backgrounds, various perceptions, and to see how we can assist our communities to actually lessen the occurrence of GBV, gender-based violence, domestic violence, and also femicide in South Africa.
One of the things I learned here, Francesca, in being exposed to WIN and all the initiatives that WIN Women is doing as well, and just being with you, is that gender-based violence is not isolated, and it literally impacts every single one of us, even though some of us might feel like, oh, I don't have that in my life. So could you speak to that for a moment?
Okay. Gender-based violence is so subtle, and it's been so subtly maintained throughout the eons that sometimes we as women perpetrate gender-based violence on our own gender without realizing it. Gender-based violence can be a violent act of physical abuse. It could be mental manipulation. It could be critique, which affects your emotional state. It could be financial manipulation or plain out financial abuse. It could be psychological. There's so many layers and tiers of gender-based violence that we don't even realize as women that when we look at another woman and we are coming either from a place of envy or jealousy or righteousness, because some of us think we are very righteous, and we critique a woman without knowing the circumstances and from which she had to make the choices that she's made, we are actually empowering patriarchy. We are actually afflicting gender-based violence on our own gender, and we are assisting the exploitation of women and the fact that society has been conditioned that if you're a woman, you've got to look a certain way, you've got to act a certain way. If you need to be a desirable woman, you've got to look a certain way, act a certain way, and have certain attributes. Women, is the gender that when we are born, we are already unknowingly part of the subconscious perpetration of ideas about what a woman should be upon our gender.
For an average person that's not in government, that's not in the front lines of this, who believes that it's not really touching their lives, they hear about it, they might support it from a distance. What do you think would be the one thing that they could start paying attention to, and maybe a behavioral change that would help impact lessening gender-based violence in our communities?
Well, there's actually a few things.
Okay.
I would start with, if you're a mother, pay attention to your daughter. Start asking her some questions, because that boy that teases her at school because she has large breasts is affecting gender-based violence against her. That girl who teases her or is nasty to her at school because she doesn't look or speak or do something a certain way, that girl is guilty of gender-based violence against her own gender. Start paying attention to yourself, the way you feel, what makes you feel comfortable and what is uncomfortable. I think if we are truly honest with ourselves in our psyche, we know that when we sit in a group of women and we hear some of those women discuss another woman, that it ultimately, at our core, does not leave us comfortable. Because I ask myself, and that is me, if I leave this table and I'm not there, will they be discussing me? So ultimately, you know, when people discuss another woman, I start asking them questions about their perceptions and taking that negativity that they are projecting towards another woman back to themselves. And I do so gently. But you would see that the mood and the topic of discussion will change, because people have to start thinking, okay, now this is, I now have to do account about why do I think this woman. So not only are we now looking at this woman's actions, but also my perceptions of those actions. So we are, in effect, when we start doing introspection, or when we dare to, in a group, question ourselves very gently as women, and our motivations very gently as women towards other women, we are actually affecting real change. We are actually addressing the underlying causes of gender-based violence. Because gender-based violence starts in the way a man is raised. If a man grows up, how many mothers-in-law welcome that fiancé and look towards her to explore her best characteristics and focus on them and highlight them? How many are there? Very few. Mostly they look for the tendencies of this woman that is negative, that they can complain to their son that she's not good enough for him, and he's this little god, and she is a massive perpetrator of violence against her gender. It can also, sometimes the mother is nice, but the sister is not. You know, there's so many dimensions of gender-based violence that we as a society needs to start addressing if we really want to make cognitive change.
So what I'm hearing is that there are a lot of sometimes what's called sister wounds and sister wars between women, and that we need to clean that up. That's number one. I think the term has been brought sometimes to the table, something like toxic masculinity, toxic femininity. I'm just going to say toxic humanity. When human beings are not owning their wounds, their trauma, their judgments, their stuff, and then they just kind of put it out, like you said, through projection. They don't question those beliefs and projections. Then we're perpetuating more pain and more violence. So, and what I'm also hearing is, if you heard correctly, I believe this is true, curiosity. We've got to get more curious. We've got to lean in. And also start to create conversations that are connecting. I really believe a lot of this stuff is the human being craving to be seen and to be loved and respected. I think at the core of all this weird behavior, there is that. And I think people, I mean, I confront a lot of people, but it seems to go well because I bring that curiosity. And I bring that respect of myself and then other. And I just always say, tell me more. Well, okay, this is what's going on. Tell me more. And so I feel that's important for the individual that doesn't really think that they can have impact. That to understand that every one of us, the way that we think, the way we treat ourselves, the way we treat each other, the way we perpetuate beliefs and ideas, we're contributing to the problem that we all hate. And we want solutions, and yet we're not looking here and realizing we are the solution, and that we can start actually shifting things drastically with every single person that we connect with.
Absolutely. you know what, and in shifting all those things, we really have to also look at the beginning. When we raise our daughters, how we were raised. And we also need to start demanding from the world around us a new set of values and a new set of what is presented as at a young girl. Yes, I've got nothing against fairy tales, but you know what? The prince in the shoe, what happens after the shoe was fitted on that foot, you know, or the kiss in the glass case and all those things. I told my children fairy tales of my own. And, you know, in my fairy tales, the one sister ended up the mayor of the town, and the other one, you know, she was the king, and she was she was married to the king, and she was a good wife, but she took on certain responsibilities in the kingdom. She shared. There was none of this, you know, oh, now this guy's marrying you, and now, you know, you're perfectly happily ever after, and just a pretty Barbie doll and half brain dead. We really need to get rid of this stereotyping that starts being imposed, and it's even like that in all traditions. Every tradition around the world, there's this imposition on girls of what a girl should be, to marry the warrior or to marry the this or the that. We need to start looking at that, and we need to start giving girls positive information about how to be a powerful wife, how to be a conscious wife, how to be a powerful mother, a conscious mother, how to empower your children, that you are allowed to be a mother and a businesswoman. There's all the stereotyping that we better start unraveling. And the first phase of stereotyping that women are exposed to in life is the little stories, the fairy tales that are told to young girls at an early age. The boy gets the impression, oh, I'm the boy, I'm the king, and you know, everything is fine. But also we fail our sons, because they also don't get affirmation about how you, your little male kings, need to act after you've now done your slippery thing. We really, really need to start getting more real in life and thinking about the future psychology, the value, the core value that we teach our children. Do we have parents that say to their children before the age of 6, you know what, being human means this? We assume how children don't understand, but they do, because it's proven that children are at their most receptive before the age of 7. And we really need to start paying attention to early childhood education. And that is the programs where we should spend when it comes to gender, and what is possible and what is not, and how does these fairy tales end, and how are they being responsible. There's just so much out there that starts by the delusional perceptions that we teach children about what adulthood of being an adult woman, an adult male, or you know, can be, and gender perspectives. You know, we also have genders in between, just male and female, and what is acceptable and what is not, and how are we being human and how are we being conned. So, you know, the reality of it is, I think if a nation really wants to invest in the future and get rid of many societal ills, most of them actually, we should as nations invest in early childhood development in a really responsible and in a very authentic manner, really giving children a basis from which to grow from.
And we have to be careful because right now, unfortunately, there are education systems that are coming in and teaching children way too young an age. Like there are no such thing as gender, love has and no age. So if an older man is trying to seduce a young girl child, it's okay. There's a lot of weird stuff happening right now that's being sponsored. And then the actual education that kids need to know, just like personal space sovereignty, respect of self, how to communicate, how to actually contribute in a positive way to the space, like these kinds of things we don't see. So there's still like, it looks like modern, wonderful thought, but actually it's still indoctrination and it's still weird ideas around gender. So I think we need to question all of that as well and understand like what are the values that we'd like to move towards as a community. And I think for me, in all of my travels, and especially in this work with you here, curiosity, again, a deep respect, like to have that respect for myself, to have that respect for another person, to ask them how their day was, and to see beyond, like you were saying earlier, to see beyond just the surface level of a person, whether they look mean or poor or scary or whatever, and to lean into that human heart, that space. Teaching children that. My father, I grew up on a very, very violent First Nation Canadian reservation, super violent. So he had to teach me at the age of 3 and 4 what to do, because around boundaries and my body and how to speak up. And my very first day of school, all the kids were molested by a female teacher. So I spoke up, none of the other kids did. So I think that kind of education is very important too, around the body's space and the use of our voice.
I cannot agree with you more. And what really lacks to me in the new, the current education system, and we can look at it going back to Calvinism, Catholicism, all this religious indoctrination, all the taboos that we were told we cannot speak about. It started going wrong when humanity started to suppress and oppress the natural spiritual flow of a child. Children, when they are young, it's very easy for them to perceive of wondrous things, to experience enchantment in nature and everywhere. And there is a natural sense that sometimes in a child makes far more sense than we realize as an adult. A very famous case in South Africa about 10 years ago was about a mother who was overly aware of manners, and she had her little son. She forced the son. He was pulling away from this man that was a gardener in a hotel gardens where they were vacating, and the child didn't want to have anything to do with that man. He was scared of him. He was pulling away, and she said to him, you must have manners. You must talk to this man. And she forced this child to talk to the guy. Unfortunately, it's not always the case, but unfortunately in this case, because the mother was so adamant, the child then relaxed his guard, and this man ended up sodomizing the boy and killing him. So we need to respect the sovereignty, not only of the physical aspects of our bodies, but also of the psyche. The heart-mind connection is the strongest connection we should nurture in children.
Yes,
it is the instrument that can allow us as humanity to find our fit and our tribe in our daily lives, and to give us forewarning and forethought, not judgment. There's no judgmental aspects to energy communication. Quantum sciences are very much talked about now, and only now do we begin to realize that we actually did ourselves a disfavor to go all into the Freudian levels of psychology and psychiatry, rather than allowing the being in its beingness, in its core, in its inhabitants, and being safe in its own space. And that is, to me, sovereignty.
Yeah.
To not be safe as a being in this body that I inhabit. And beingness means fully aware, as much as we can in this day, in this world that we live in today. So there's so many aspects, and I bring it back to early childhood education. Children have not closed off their psychic awareness or their energetic imprints, whatever you want to call it. And we really need to allow children not only the sovereignty of their bodies, but also of their awareness.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We've been on quite a journey with this conversation. We're going to end in a moment here, but I just want to summarize. So part of recognizing and really initiating true transformation, I'm going to call it transformation of gender-based violence versus eradication.
Yeah.
So to initiate true transformation, start to get curious. Who are the people around? Start to initiate contact, support each other. Start looking at how we're raising the children, how we as women are perpetuating violence against each other, how our beliefs are, how we raise boys, how we raise girls, how they're learning, respecting their sovereignty. All of that's a massive, we could be here for hours, like really unpacking this. And maybe we will next time I come to South Africa. That could be incredible.
Much to be said and many hours to be spent.
Yes, but I'm so grateful for your wisdom and all the work that you are currently doing here in this country. It's amazing. And I look forward to coming back and continuing to support.
And I'd love having you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So if you have any comments on that, there is a comment section right at the bottom of this page. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And you will be definitely hearing back from Francesca sometime in the near future. So have a beautiful day. And here's to connection and curiosity.
Thank you, and many blessings for the festive season. Thanks, Maria. Bye.